Hello and welcome to the Stokes Cycling Show. And today we're going to do a massive, I have no idea how long this is going to be, preview of the Tour de France. So the plan to go through this is I'm going to give a basically full rundown of all the teams, all the riders, potential strategies, what each team's going to want to get out of the race, and then I'm going to go stage by stage, give a little bit of an idea of what each stage may hold, and then my predictions for each stage individually, and also my predictions for the major classifications, the GC, the points classification, and the King of the Mountains. So we come into this tour with kind of a lot of intrigue, but with majorly an expectation that it'll go quite similarly to last year. Last year, Tadej Pogačar dominated the only stage where he kind of looked at risk of losing a little bit of time at all. He simply got out-sprinted by Jonas at the end after being caught. And this year, he seems to have, for the most part, gone strength to strength. He lost a little bit of time in the time trial in the Dauphiné, but that's basically the only bit of weakness he has shown all year. So I think it's a good place to start with his UAE Team Emirates XRG team. Their focus will be entirely on Tadej for this race. He's got incredible climbing support. João Almeida, who is very much a contender for the podium himself. Adam Yates was on the podium, I believe, 2 years ago. Pavel Sivakov, Marc Soler, both brilliant climbers and can do more of a ruler kind of job if needed. Some great punchers in Jonathan Narvaez and Tim Wellens, and also Nils Pollitt on the flat should be a very good help. I think it's a really, really strong team. I'm a little bit surprised that both Sivakov and Soler are here, and that Florian Vermeersch or maybe an Ivo Oliveira weren't added to this team. I think their pure flat support is more limited, but Wellens, Narvaez can kind of do that job if needs be, and Nils Pollitt is strong enough to do a lot on his own, to be fair. Incredible team. Great team in terms of setting up Tadej to attack on basically any stage. Positionally, we've seen this year maybe not the best. The first week of this race is very, very technical. There's a lot of stages in which time can be won and lost on really small margins in terms of positioning. But overall, I think this team will be able to cope. I mean, Tadej himself could probably cope on his own. And then we can head into the main rival over the past few years now to Tadej Pogačar, Jonas Vingegaard and his Visma Lease bike team. They have a really, really nice team on paper. I think on paper this is the most balanced team in the race. Jonas Vingegaard obviously heading up that team. The recent Giro d'Italia champion Simon Yates coming off the Giro, we don't know what type of form he'll be in. Jorgensen, who historically, especially in more of a dual leader strategy, is really, really helpful to have in the team. Climbing domestique, Sepp Kuss, incredible winner of the Vuelta a couple of years ago. And then Tish Benoit, Wout van Aert, Victor Kampenaerts and Eduardo Affini. It's an incredibly, incredibly good team. It'll be interesting to see if they try a proper multi-leader strategy and see what tactics they can come up with to try and assist Jonas in breaking down the form of Pogačar. I think Wout van Aert is potential for the green jersey as well, but I think he'll more likely be playing a team role in this race, which we'll see. We'll see. There's always a chance of Wout coming into Paris in green. But yeah, them two teams, kind of as the two main GC teams, they're very well. I think they're very well rivaled to each other. I think Visma have got a little bit more range in the riders they're bringing. I think UAE have the edge kind of in the medium mountains, maybe. But then on the top end, it kind of depends what form everyone's coming in with. And UAE just has kind of a bit of tactical flexibility. If Visma try and use Yates or Jorgensen to make any moves to try and break Pogačar just by rolling attacks on him, João Almeida is likely to be there still, and they can just send him to follow. It's not something we'd really seen with UAE when Pogačar's in a race, but tactically they have that flexibility in this race, assuming Almeida's on top form. He may struggle in week one, though. Positionally, he's historically not been great in these kind of stages. And then we can move on to the third place finisher last year, Remco Evenepoel. He is, I believe, third favourite for the GC again this year. I was a little bit surprised by his team. I don't know why I'm surprised by it. It feels like he should have a stronger team, but of course, Mikel Landa is out injured, Louis Vavaca is out injured. So it's kind of the best team they can probably put around him. Van Wilder, Paripintre, Catania, Schachmann, Pascal Incorn is a great Baroudeur. And then the little added caveat to this team is they have quite possibly the quickest sprinter in the race in Tim Merlier as well. I mean, I'll come on to the sprinters teams properly later, but Tim Merlier is by far one of the favourites in the sprints in this race. And he has Bert van Lerberger to lead him out as well. But Remco will enjoy the fact that there is a 33k time trial in this race. We'll get onto the full profile later, but that will really benefit Remco. Who knows how much time he can possibly take on that? I would say up to a minute he can probably take on that stage, and it'll be a case of him trying to hold on as best as he can in the mountains. And apparently he's lighter than he was last year, so in theory he should be better, and we'll just have to see. I think it's unlikely for Remco to be able to properly challenge Tadej Jonas, but I would really love to see it. And then kind of the other main podium contenders for this race are Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, with what I assume will now be a dual leader strategy. Primoz Roglic, who came off a pretty bad Giro d'Italia. He lost time, didn't finish the race in the end. And kind of one of the revelations of the last few seasons in Florian Lipovic, he beat Remco in the Dauphiné just a few weeks ago. And that was a really, really standout performance from Lipovic. I mean, he's podiumed week-long stage races before, but he's already proven he can do it across 3 weeks. He was top 10 in the Vuelta, I believe, last year. It'll just be interesting to see how this team adapts to whether Roglic is going to go in as the out-and-out leader, or if they let Lipovic, who, from what we've seen in their most recent races comparatively, Lipovic seems to be better. It'll be interesting to see if they allow their team to function as a single leader or a duo leader. They've also got Alex Vlasov in there, won the King of the Mountains at the Tour de Suisse. Should be great climbing support. Also, I assume will be given his own chances. And then the rest of the team is really interesting. I'm surprised they don't have another kind of dedicated mountain domestique rider. Because the rest of the team is Gianni Moscon, Mick van Dijk, Lawrence Pithy, Danny Van Poppel, and Jordi Meus. Now, Jordi Meus deserves to be backed a bit in this race. He's come off a win in the Tour de Suisse. He won the Copenhagen Sprint. Danny Van Poppel, new Dutch champion, in my opinion, the best lead-out rider in the world. Positionally, wonderful. Timing-wise, brilliant. But Moscon, if Moscon can step up to climb closer to the level he did when he was helping Egan Bernal win the Giro, for example, then I think this may not become a problem. But at the end of the day as well, UAE and maybe to an extent Visma are going to be controlling mountain stages, and no one else is going to have to put any work in because it will be understood that that's what's going to happen. And I think kind of everyone who isn't the major contenders, the major two contenders, are going to benefit off that. It means they don't necessarily need as much mountain support as normal. But I did find it interesting that Red Bull haven't got another, even like maybe a full-scale like puncher type of Van Gils or a Roger Adria, that sort of rider. I expected maybe one of them to be in here. But I think Red Bull, we'll see how well Meus does in the sprints. He doesn't have the top-end power of some of the other guys, but having Danny Van Poppel there is a major advantage. The Ineos Grenadiers are here with Carlos Rodriguez and Geraint Thomas. Carlos, I believe, is the GC leader. I believe Geraint on his podcast discussed how Carlos was fully fledged the GC leader of this team. They've got Tymon Arensman, always warms up through the Grand Tour, gets better and better. Tobias Foss, been one of the most exciting riders to watch of the season. I'll be happy to see him in a few breakaways. Pippo Ganna is going to be such an interesting rider in this race, I think. There's a lot of stages that can suit the type of rider Pippo Ganna is. I mean, obviously he's one of the best time trialists in the world. He'll be looking to try and win the time trial on stage 5. I think if he was allowed to, he could actually make a really, really good run at the points jersey in this race. I feel like it's unlikely to happen, especially considering Axel Laurence is also in this team, and is also very quick in a sprint from a reduced bunch, and will also be trying to get into breakaways, I assume. But I think Ganna is a quality enough rider to make a run at Green if they let him. And then the team rounds out with Connor Swift and Sam Watson. I think with the way Ineos are riding this season, because they're so attacking, I think this team is really, really set up well for this tour to play an attacking race. And it's really refreshing to see, especially if we see it at the race that historically they've just sat on the front, paced every climb, sat in the formation. Chris Froome wins. You know, that's historically how this team have raced. Now they're having to think outside the box. Dave Brailsford's apparently back in charge of the team as well. I'm not sure what capacity that is in, but it should be really interesting to find out how they race, and I hope that for the sake of Ineos Grenadiers, their attacking racing that they've been trying all season pays off big for them at some point in this race. I think the last kind of two major teams that I've got described as GC teams in my notes, Bahrain Victorious, Santiago Buitrago, Lenny Martinez. Allegedly Lenny's here for stage wins, not GC, but I feel like he's probably going to be one of them riders in kind of a Guillaume Martin-esque style, trying to backdoor a top 10, getting into breaks, winning time back, losing time on the stages he can't, but like not too much time, so he's not involved in the GC at all. Santi's one of them riders where when he's on top form, he's incredible. We saw it in stage 1 of the Dauphiné. He was in that group of 5 that went away. He made the split with the big guns. But he also blows really hot and cold. But he's very, very good in a hectic first week like we have this year. I think it'll be quite difficult to break him in terms of dropping him on any of these stages significantly. I think Santi and Lenny are both really good chances for a top 10 in this race. It'll be nice to see Lenny have a proper Tour de France this year after just kind of being thrown in the deep end last year while prepping for the Vuelta, I believe. Got sent to the Tour anyway, was non-factor the entire way through because of that. And then the rest of the team, Phil Bauhaus, one of them sort of sprinters that can just throw up a result every now and then. He's got a couple of guys who could prove decent lead-out riders, Fred Wright, Rob Stannard, Mohoric, but all three of them I see more as stage hunters. And Jack Haig is apparently not renewing his contract with Bahrain. There's been some talk about that recently, and he should be either assisting in the mountains or trying to get into mountain breakaways to, reward himself with a contract somewhere else. And the other final fully fledged GC team, Movistar. Enric Mas, once again, coming to the Tour de France, likely to be in the top 10. This is actually a really strong team in terms of stage hunters. I really like the list of riders that they've put out here. Aina Rubio, incredible Colombian climber. Pablo Castrillo winning stages at the Vuelta last year, going to his first tour. Mulberger, historically a good break rider. Ivan Romeo's been one of the best breakaway riders of the season. He won it was either Andalusia or Valenciana, I don't particularly remember which one it was. Great, and then recent win at the Dauphiné from a break as well, and also the newly crowned Spanish national champion. Brilliant rider, only 21 or 22-year-old. I can't wait. He's really, really good, and I still think he'll be undervalued in breakaways in this race. So I think he has a great chance of a big win here. Will Barter, Nelson Oliveira. I saw an interesting stat about Nelson Oliveira. I believe if he finishes this Grand Tour, it'll put him second all-time of Grand Tours finished without DNFing one. Which, I think that's a testament to kind of the sort of rider Nelson Oliveira is. He's such a worthy, proven lieutenant of whatever leader he's working for at a time. He's also a wonderfully good time trialist at the same time as that. But he's just so consistent. I seem to remember him being in various, 15 rider left groups in the mountains in week 3s. Just no right to be there. But he just retains his energy way more than most of the field. It's really impressive. And then the final rider is Ivan Garcia Cortina. If he can get into a reduced bunch, he could be really dangerous from a breakaway. Next, I think I'd like to go into kind of the main sprinting options of this race. Of course, we've already touched on who I believe is probably the quickest sprinter in the race, Tim Merlier. We've had a quick look at a couple of other guys, Wout van Aert, Phil Bauhaus, who, they should be competitive to an extent in the points classification or in sprints. But I think we have to start with the other two major sprinters of this race. in kind of the common consensus. Lidl Trek's Jonathan Milan, and Alpes Interkönig's Jesper Philipsen. Milan, this is his first Tour de France. I believe he's a 2-time points classification winner at the Giro already. He's won a number of Grand Tour stages at said Giro d'Italia already. He is absolutely one of the quickest in the world. He's got an incredible lead out with Jesper Stuyven, Edward Turns, Simone Consoni. Really good lead out. And then a couple of strong, punchy rouleurs, Tom Scoynes, Quinn Simmons. Thibaut Nace is also on this team. First Grand Tour ever. He should be competitive in the hillier stages, and it's going to be really fun to see. And then also Matthias Skelmos. I believe their pre-tour kind of article that came out mentioned Skelmos was going for stage wins and maybe the King of the Mountains jersey over a GC bid. But again, I think he's another one of them riders that if he is doing that, could very much backdoor a top 10. But then again, I wouldn't be surprised if plans change and he just goes all out for GC anyway. He just doesn't have a lot of, well, basically no climbing support if that's the case. But Milan, for these sprints, Lidl is probably the best full lead-out train in the race. Consoni has started to prove time and time again that he's brilliant again with positioning and timing. I think Consoni Milan as a duo benefit from corners in the last kilometre a lot more than some other lead-outs do, which is unfortunate because as far as I can remember, there's only one stage in which there's a corner in the last kilometre. I think it's about 650 to go. So that may not benefit them as much as it would in other races. And then Alpecin, the entire team is kind of built around Jesper Philipsen. That's not quite true, but Dillier, Vermeersch, Ricard, Caden Groves, and the huge name of the team, Mathieu van der Poel. I mean, Philipsen's a huge name in his own right. Caden Groves, a 9-time, I think, Grand Tour stage winner, coming into this race for the first time that I've seen for definite as Jesper Philipsen's last man in the lead-out. We've not seen that before, and Caden Groves is a damn quick sprinter in his own right. It will be so intriguing to see how well they mesh together. But I think one thing that can be said about Caden Groves is his timing in sprints is generally pretty good. And he doesn't have as good of a burst as Philipsen. So on paper, it should work quite well. And Van der Poel has ample opportunity to get stage wins in this race. I mean, from stage 2, he's one of the favourites to go into the yellow jersey on stage 2. Also, Mur de Bretagne, which he's won before, is in this race on stage 7. He has plenty of opportunity. And then a couple of wildcards, Sandro Mercer and Emil Verstringer. Punchy, climby types. I mean, Mercer's kind of an all-rounder. It's Emil Verstringer's first Grand Tour. He's already proven to be a much better rider than I would have expected him to become this season. I say this on the fact that he made the main group in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, but it's his first Grand Tour. It's kind of a step into the unknown for Verstringer, coming from cyclocross. I think it'll be really nice to see him in this race. I kind of, in the back of my mind, I have expectations of him doing a lot better than I think people will expect him to. When we're talking about sprinters, it's surprising to have gone through what I would describe the three major sprinters in this race in Merlier, Milan, and Philipsen, and not having the defending green jersey in that list. But I think Biniam Girmay is not one of the favourites for the points classification or the sprints in this race. I think at best he's fourth best sprinter. I would argue that he's fifth best, in my current opinion. But as far as I'm aware, he hasn't won a race since the Tour de France last year. He's been pretty poor overall this season, but he deserves the respect coming in as defending green jersey champion. His team is incredibly well built around him. Lawrence Rex, Hugo Page, Jonas Rutsch, who doubles up as a ridiculously good breakaway rider as well, Vito Barat, and Roel van Sint Maartensdijk, who is, I think, a very, very underrated ruler, kind of third last lead out man. He can also time trial way better than he's given credit for. I think Roel van Sint Maartensdijk is a very underrated rider. They're all here to help Binny, though, I would assume. And Binny is more versatile than the aforementioned sprinters. It'll just be interesting to see if, depending on how aggressive this race is rode, especially if the GC guys are trying to take gaps on each other in these first week stages that are hilly, it's gonna make it a lot harder for Binny to be competitive for a stage win specifically. I think he will be competitive in the sprints. I expect him to get on the podium a couple of times in this race. The sprints are hectic, and he won 3 stages last year. He knows how to win at this level. He's got a good team around him. They also have a couple of wild cards in Georg Zimmermann, the new German champion. NAF National Championships jersey, by the way. Hate it. You can barely tell. I mean, it looks different than the normal Intermarché jersey because it's full white, but Christ above, people need to start putting more effort into National Championships jerseys. Rent over. Zimmermann and Louis Barret, who was really good in the Dauphiné. Them two, as breakaway competitors, I think, have a really good chance of a stage win as well. There's a lot of riders in this race that I'm going to say that about, though, because this field is really, really strong. It's really, really strong. There's a lot of open stages. A lot of it kind of depends on how much the GC teams react to things as well. But there's a lot of opportunity, I would say. And then there's the final team I've got listed as a sprinters team. It's kind of a lie. It's kind of half a sprinters team and half a GC team, but I've got it more as a sprinters team. Dylan Groenewegen from Jaco Alula. He's got Mezgets and he's got Reinders with him, no Max Walscheid. And then Luke Durbridge, who, Australian champion currently, brilliant Baroudeur. That team is a good lead out when it comes together. Dylan Groenewegen is maybe the best sprinter at not quite winning in the world at the moment. I mean, I know he's taken a win or two this season, but the early part of the year was just marred with Dylan Groenewegen coming second. Even after, I assume they sent him to the Tour of Hellas to bring his confidence back up, losing out to Matteo Moschetti twice. Can't have done him a lot of favours. But a testament to Dylan Groenewegen as a rider. He is so consistently good at Grand Tours. He just seems to always take a stage win. Whenever he's there, he seems to take a stage win. Regardless of what his form has been coming in, he gets one. As you'll see later, I haven't predicted that. That's because I'm stupid. The other half of this team is more of a GC focus. Ben O'Connor. I think if Ben O'Connor wants to be competitive for a top 10 place, he has to do some mental rubbish like he likes doing at Grand Tour. He's done it in the Tour before when he came fourth. Took like 6 minutes on a mountain stage from the breakaway. He did it at the Vuelta last year. He came second at the World Championships because he did an attack that no one followed because no one cared that he was the one attacking. They cared more about everyone else in that group, and he got second because of it. He's so good at flying under the radar. He did it recently in the Tour de Suisse in the first stage. Was expected to be the best climber in that front group. I mean, I suppose it didn't quite turn out like that. Vauquelin ended up being better, and Alaphilippe for that matter. But he just flies under the radar so well. And they've also got Eddie Dunbar, who is a top 10 Grand Tour rider in the past already. Luke Plapp, coming off of a stage win in the Giro, and Maro Schmidt, after becoming double Swiss champion, beat Stefan Bissiger in the time trial by a second, I believe. Great performance there, but retained his road race championship as well. That is, as a unit of 4, on the really hard, really chaotic mountain and medium mountain stages, and even on, some of the more questionable hilly stages in terms of will people from the peloton try and control it. That team of 4 is really good for that sort of racing. And the rest, the rest of the entire field, I've got listed as stage hunting teams. This may not be the case. They may end up rallying around certain riders if they get into good positions. However, I'm just gonna run through them. I'm just gonna run through them as quick as possible. Groupama FDJ. Guillaume Martin could backdoor a top 10 GC. I think it's unlikely. Romain Gregoire coming in with great form, great stage hunter, wonderful puncher. I think he has a really, really good chance. He's probably got their best chance in this race. Pache, Madouas, great punchers also in their own right. Lewis Askey has been wonderful this season. Reduced bunch sprints, breakaways, more of his thing. And then Paul Penaway, young-ish sprinter. I'm not quite sure how old he is at this point. I believe it's his first tour, though. It might be his first Grand Tour. I'm not sure about that. I should check that at some point. With also Clément Rousseau, Cyril Barthes as just kind of Bermuda support, lead out, miscellaneous kind of guys. EF, the stage hunters of the World Tour generally, lost Richard Carapaz before the race, so they don't have a GC push. Then again, Carapaz might have not gone for GC and just gone for stages anyway. Ben Healy, world-class breakaway rider. Nilson Paulus, world-class breakaway rider. Michael Velgren, world-class breakaway rider. Casper Asgreen, world-class breakaway rider. And then a couple of guys who I think very much could become world-class breakaway riders as well, in Alex Baudin and Harry Sweeney. Sweeney's been ridiculous. He's so underrated. It's painful how underrated Harry Sweeney is. He, fifth in the final time trial at Tour de Suisse from absolutely nowhere. Ridiculous, man. Vincenzo Albanese, winner at said Tour de Suisse as well. And Maren van der Berg, who really versatile sprinter. We'll see how well he does in the more pure sprints, but he could sneak a result in a reduced bunch at some point as well. IPT, Woods, Lutsenko, Blackmore, Nylance, hilly to an extent, mountainous, breakaway riders. Joe Blackmore's first Grand Tour should be interesting how he goes. I mean, he won the Tour de l'Avenir here. Or did he win? Did he get second? I don't remember. Because Pablo Torres had that ridiculous run at the last stage. Anyway, his first Grand Tour, we'll see if he develops into a GC rider in the future. I would err on the side of probably not. He's probably more of a breakaway guy. But it'd be nice to have another Brit in that position. And then they've got their kind of sprinter core. Pascal Ackermann, it wasn't for definite that he was coming here, by the sounds of it. We'll see if he can roll back the years. Jake Stewart won a stage of the Dauphiné a lot quicker than he's ever been before, seemingly. And fairly versatile in his own right. Louvel is also fairly versatile and quick. And then Guillaume Boivin, he's, again, breakaway guy. UnoX. I love UnoX. They're such a nice team to watch. I just expect them to be everywhere on every stage. I think if it's ever going to happen, this should be the year Tobias Holland Johannesson aims for a GC top 10. He came 5th at the Dauphiné. He's had brilliant preparation. His brother Anders is climbing better than ever before as well, and could be a really, really key right-hand man for him. Andreas Leknesund, new national champion of Norway, must be climbing well to do that. I mean, then again, the whole team at Norway basically took out the top 15 spots or something stupid. And then, Magnus Cort, historically one of the best breakaway riders in the bunch. Marcus Hulgaard. Marcus Hulgaard's first Grand Tour, I believe. That surprised me when I found that out. I'm surprised he hasn't done one before. But, again, brilliant break sort of rider. Jonas Abrahamsson got an injury in the build-up, but is still starting from everything that has been said. He's doing fine. He's a monster, innit? I really like Jonas Abrahamsson. I want to see him win a stage, but with this field, I think it's unlikely. I don't think there's a stage that particularly suits him. And then Søren Werenskjold for the pure sprints, the time trial, Stian Fredheim for the, if there's any more reduced sprints in his first Grand Tour as well. He deserves the spot in this team. They didn't bring Christoph, and I think that's really unfortunate for Alexander Christoph. I'd have liked to see him get the chance to go for another Grand Tour stage. Of course, it's unlikely for him to be able to, but I think he kind of did enough to deserve to be in the team. But then again, I think UnoX had about 12 riders who deserve to be in the team, and there's only 8 slots. And all the guys who are here, I believe, deserve to be here as well. So it's a difficult one from them. Tudor. I don't think I will be happy at the end of this Grand Tour if Julian Alaphilippe has not won a stage. I'm convinced he's back. I'm convinced he's back to his old self. I'm convinced Panache will come through and win him a stage, and having the extra facet of Mark Hershey to play tactically with him. Oh my god. Tudor have such a good opportunity of winning a stage here. Maybe more. Michael Storer, I'm not sure if he's going to go for GC or go for stages, but again, his attacks have been ridiculous this season. Tour of the Alps won dominantly after being a mad person. He won the naff, horrible weather, awful stage in the Dauphiné, not the Dauphiné, Pyrenees as well, right? And then the other section of their team, big baroudeurs, and Alberto Dainese as a sprinter coming here instead of the Giro. He'll be good for top 10s. It'll be good for UCI points for them. Towards trying to get wildcards next year. But Marco Haller, Matteo Trentin, Marius Meyerhofer, and Fabian Lienhardt all have a kick on them. All should be fairly good in breakaways on the flatter stages. But I mean, Trentin's historically pulled random performances on climbs out the bag as well. Meyerhofer won in Dunkirk, I think, not that long ago. It's a really good team. Decathlon, Felix Gall is going for stage wins. Good. He is not surviving the first week of this race in GC. I have precisely zero confidence that he'd be able to, so don't make him try. It'll be safer if he doesn't try. He's more likely to get stages if he doesn't try. And this is coming from someone who I have a really controversial opinion. I think it's always good to have as many riders staying close to the GC as possible, because you never know what might happen. And, you know, there's plenty of times we've seen people in solid GC contention slip into a breakaway without being noticed. And that's where teams can beat the big guns just by a bit of tactical nous. But I say this in contrary to that entire point. Felix Gall should sit up at 50 kilometres to go in every stage in this first week, because I just don't think he'll survive in the GC fight if that's the case. But apparently he's coming for stage wins anyway, so it should be fine. Berthet, Scottson, Aurélien Paraprenche, Amirai, Tronchon, all climbers, punchers. I mean, Amirai should do a particularly good time trial as well. All in with a shout of a stage win. Stefan Bissiger, if he's on his classics form from earlier in the year, brilliant. He should maybe top 5 that time trial if that's the case. And Ollie Narsson, I always like seeing Ollie get a chance to do whatever he can. He is, I think it's getting to the point of his career, because he hasn't got any flashy results recently, that he is one of them riders who's starting to become underrated and underestimated again, but it's towards the end of his career. Be nice for him to have a little swan song. XCS Astana, team of the season, in my opinion, still. Higuita, Tejada, Champoussin, Velasco, the climbing half of the team. I don't think any of them will go for GC. I think it'll be played quite similarly to how they played the Giro, and one of them guys will probably focus entirely on the King of the Mountains for the UCI points. Not that they're really in trouble anymore. And then the other half of the team is the more Baroudeur-esque, sprinty kind of part of the team. Ballerini, Turnison, Fedorov, Boll. I like that team. I think they have a lot of opportunity again. I'm saying that about everyone, but it's because they all do. There's so much opportunity within the way this course is laid out. And Astana across this season have been really good at taking advantage of that type of thing. Picnic Postinel. While doing this show, may sound like I get angry at Picnic Postinel a lot. This is due to my opinion on how bad at organising their race calendar they are. They for the first half of the season, they've not really looked at the UCI point situation at all. That's a problem in its own right, but they have time and time again gone to big races without having a good enough team to perform at them big races. And for once, they have most of a team that will be able to perform to a decent enough extent here. Oscar Onley, I'd like to see him go for GC. We haven't seen him go for GC in a Grand Tour yet. I think it'll be really nice to watch. And I think he has the chance of a top 10. So I'd like to see that. Frank Vandenbroek, breakaway star of Stage 1 last year, helping Bardet to yellow. Warren Barguil won the King of the Mountains here before, obviously. Not performed to that level for a good while now. I'd like to see him be back. Lund Andresen and Bittner, both sprinters of a similar level. I think Andresen's very slightly quicker, with a lead out of Nicholas Markle, who's pretty good, actually. Nicholas Markle is better than people think he is. I would like to see them sprint with both Andresen and Bittner in every sprint they possibly can, for the sole purpose of they need the points. The top 15 on each stage get UCI points, I believe. They need the points. Sprint with both of them. And then Sean Flynn. I don't know if it's his first Grand Tour, but Sean Flynn, I think, has potential to become a really solid puncher. And again, breaks get him some development through this race. And Tim Naberman, just kind of a miscellaneous Baroudeur type. Should be good for, helping the rest of the guys out. I don't expect to see him do a whole lot on his own. But, I always love to be proven wrong in the sport of cycling. Lotto, Lennart van Eetvelt. Is he going for GC? Is he going to go for the King of Mountains? GC, I think, is a possibility. Again, not a lot of mountain support. He's got Sepulveda, who's fine. Better as a breakaway rider. Berkmo's should be a really interesting guy for the breaks. There's a lot of stages that suit him a lot. Brent Van Moo's a wonderfully good Baroudeur as well. Sebastian Grignard, I expect to be one of the guys trying to get into the three-men breakaways on stages where absolutely nothing happens. I think he's actually a really good rider for that type of thing, because he doesn't have the name value of a lot of other guys in this race. He can go under the radar, be underestimated, chance of a result. And then Arnaud Delis, Jesper de Boost, Jared Drisner's little lead out for Delis. I mean, he's not been great this season. He's had a lot of issues on the and off the bike. A lot of illness, I believe. I'd love to see him performing at his best again. And he must be able to perform to a good enough standard because they've put him in the team. Arkea B&B, best chance they've got is Kevin Vauquelin. Christian Rodriguez, Ewan Costu, both good climbers in their own right. Raul Garcia Piana recently won the time trial in Occitanie. He is, again, a brilliant rider and will go underrated, as will Mathis Lebert. He's a wonderfully good breakaway rider, and one day it will pay off for him, I'm sure of that. And then Venturini, who's a bit more of a punchy sprint kind of guy, and Capio, who sprints really well, a little bit more versatile than Arnaud Démare. If Démare's on form, we've seen that he's actually quite versatile, but we haven't seen that form from him in a while. I'd love to see a result from him. Cofidis, Emmanuel Buchmann. This is where we find out if he walks the walk again. Last year, he had a big falling out with Bora. over not sending him to the Giro d'Italia while he was in great form. He was promised to be GC leader for them at that Giro or something, I think. Now he's moved to Cofidis. I believe he's only on a 1-year contract. He needs to perform. He needs to perform here, or it'll be disappointing for him personally, I'd imagine. I mean, I wouldn't put huge expectations on him, but if he's good and he's asked for the respect, he deserves the respect. I mean, he's come fourth before. I mean, it was a while ago now, but he's come fourth before. I'd love to see him roll it back. It'd be great. Yoni Zagiri has been underwhelming at best this year. Again, would be really nice to see him get a result. Aaron Burr should be really dangerous on these breakaway stages. Dylan Turns, if he can get into some good form as well. Benjamin Thomas has won from a group that's gone late up the road, or comparatively later to most breakaway wins, let's say. And won in the Giro last year. There are stages that sort of thing can be done on in this race. But I think he'll be watched a lot in the same sense. And then Brian Coquard with Alexis Renard and Damien Touzé as his lead out. I don't expect him to be incredible, but he is very versatile, and he does like to pop up in random places and win where you would least expect him to. Well, maybe not least expect him to, but against riders of a supposed higher caliber, Coquard is surprisingly good at least 2 or 3 times a year. And then finally, Total Energy, which is interesting, obviously, because Ineos have also got Total Energy sponsorship now, and have created maybe the worst jersey of all time. I certainly haven't seen a worse one in my time watching the sport, which, granted, is only since 2017, but I haven't seen a worse jersey than that. The Total Energy on their own jersey, great, love it. Steph Crass, potential GC rider, more likely a stage hunter. Jordan Giguet, great climber as well. Bergerdo, brilliant puncher, has won on the World Tour before. Vercher was very close last year, I believe. Delettre, it might be Deletre's first tour. Will go under the radar in punchy stages, I'd imagine. Thomas Gachinard is a really good baroudeur, and again, I think he has the chance to be underrated in big break groups, and he's very, very good. Turgi won the gravel stage last year. Was it a gravel stage? Was it a cobble stage? My memory is naff, apparently. And Jean-Pierre for the sprints. Again, I think that's a really strong Total team. I think similarly to UNOX, they had about 12 riders who deserved to be in this team, and these are the ones they've gone with, and I like the selection, to be honest. I really do like this selection. I think I'll jump into stage by stage now. Now I've rambled on about teams for, 50 minutes or so. Not that long, really, is it? Stage 1, from Lille Metropole to Lille Metropole, 185 kilometres. Flat stage, likely sprint. There are 3 Cat 4s, one of them's Montcassel, which I believe it's the main stage of the 4 days that aren't actually 4 days of Dunkirk, if I remember that correctly. Final climb's 45k before the finish, likely to be a sprint. My prediction for this stage is Soudal Quickstep's Tim Merlier. I think he can benefit from other teams' draft. Bert's been wavy at best at getting him into position this year, but I think if he was going to do it properly anywhere, it would be to take the yellow jersey in this Tour de France. but I don't. There's a lot of roundabouts. Yeah, a lot of roundabouts. I've heard there's gonna be wind, quite a lot of wind as well, but I haven't looked into that yet. But yeah, should be a sprint for the yellow jersey at the start of this race. My prediction is Tim Merlier. Stage 2 from Loin-Planck to Boulogne-sur-Mer, 209 kilometres. Flat for the most part. It's really open for attacking riders. In the final 10k, there is a Cat 3 followed by a Cat 4, and there's a ramp to the finish. I think it should really reward an attacking style of rider. I think GC gaps can be made if the right group gets away. My prediction for this is Mathieu van der Poel to win a reduced bunch sprint. By reduced, I mean a small group sprint, not reduced. I think there'll be maybe 15 guys to the line here. Stage 3, Valenciennes to Dunkirk, 178 kilometres. Pan flat, apart from Montgacel again, with 30k to go this time. This is the sort of stage where it should be a nailed-on sprint. But it seems to me like one of them ones, like in the aforementioned Benjamin Thomas stage of the Giro last year, where something stupid could happen. Where some baroudeurs could just be like, we'd quite like to win this stage. How about we annihilate everyone for the final half an hour, 45 minutes of the race? But I think it'll be a sprint. I don't expect anything like that to happen. My prediction is Jonathan Milan for this one, and I don't remember why. That's fine. Stage 4, Amiens to Rouen, 174 kilometres. First 125 kilometres are flat, and then there are a fourth cat, a third cat, two fourth cats, and another third category climb, the Saint Hilaire, which is 800 metres at 9.4%, 5.5k from the line. That, I think, will be decisive in terms of dropping some of the periphery GC riders. My prediction for the stage, Tadej Pogačar from a group of not very many at all. Maybe Pogačar, Van der Poel commits a little too hard, Vingegaard, only kind of the top tier GC guys and punchers, and Tadej wins the stage is my prediction. Stage 5, 33 kilometre time trial in Caen. Pretty flat. There's kind of a little bit of technicality in the city at the start and the end. I think Remco will win this one ahead of Ganna. I expect Remco to be the best time trialist over this course. Not by a lot. Massive amounts of time can be taken out of GC contenders who are not great time trialists here. Like, genuinely 3, 4, 5 minutes in some cases I expect to be able to be taken out of people here. Stage 6, Bayeux to Ville-Normandie, 200k, very bumpy. The break fight I expect to be really hard. There's an early sprint in this race for for points, and there's 2 third category climbs in the first 60k. And then in the last 65k, also, 3 third categories and a 4th category, the Côte de Vaudreuil, 1.2 kilometres at 7.1% with 5k to go, and there is a ramp to the finish at this one. I think the breakaway will go. I think it will be a really strong break, and I think this is the stage for Tudor to target specifically with both Hirschi and Alaphilippe. So my prediction, Julian Alaphilippe from the breakaway of this stage. Moving on to stage 7 now. Saint-Malo to the Mur de Bretagne, 197 kilometres. Flat-ish, bit undulating for most of the stage, but the kind of big action of the stage should be right at the end. 2 reps of the Mur de Bretagne. The final one is 2K at 7.1%. I think Mur de Breton, there's never big gaps, but it's always really fun. And my prediction is Mathieu van der Poel, previous winner on the Mur de Breton, is going to win again. I expect him to be the best of this bunch in that sort of stage. Stage 8, completely flat. I think they managed to find like a 500 meters 4% climb or something to put a climb on. Something ridiculous like that. Saint-Maine-le-Grand to Laval, 170k. Like I say, completely flat. Apart from the final straight is also a 3% gradient. And for that reason, I'm going for Jesper Philipsen. I think he has the best lead out for that sort of finish with Van der Poel and Groves. So I think Philipsen is the best for that stage. He's my prediction. Stage 9, again, incredibly flat. No King of the Mountains, I believe, on this one. The 1.5k final straight, less corners, way out again. It's Chinon to Châteauroux, by the way, 174k. Châteauroux, also known as Cavendish City now. I don't know if that sign's real or someone's edited it, but it'd be nice if it was real. I believe Cavs won there 3 times, so, you know, true to the name. My prediction is Tim Merlier again for this one. I think he can benefit on the longer finishing straights when it is flat. Stage 10, final stage of the first week. 10-stage first week, by the way. Because Bastille Day falls the way it does, the first Monday rest day is now a Tuesday rest day. So stage 10 is the end of the first week, and it is lovely. It's so nice. Medium mountain, proper medium mountain stage. 7 category 2s and a category 3. The first climb is 6.5k into the stage. The finale of the stage, the last 2 climbs, 5.1k at 6.3%, the Col de la Croix Robert, then a descent, and then a 3.3k 7.7% to the line at Le Mont d'Or Puy de Sancy. So 165k of a stage. I think this is a... And I shouldn't say it so confidently, but I think it's a nailed-on breakaway win. I think Ben Healy goes from about 50k out and just wins. That's the sort of thing he does, isn't it? Very, very good stage for that sort of rider. But a lot of guys will be interested, and the breakaway fight should be ridiculous. Stage 11, after the rest day, Toulouse to Toulouse, 157k. There's a lot of little climbs throughout. There's some of them are categorized, some of them are not categorized. They're all pretty similar, not particularly strong gradients, apart from the final climb. 800 meters, 9.8%. It's at 10k to go. I'm really 50-50 on this one. I think it could be a day where the peloton goes, let's have a day off. I think it could also be a day where one of the more versatile sprinters have their team control. For example, an Intermarché for a Biniam Girmay could control for this stage. But my prediction is back-to-back stage wins for EF Education Easy Post. I'm going with Nilson Paulus on this one. I was looking through the start list. His name popped out to me as a guy that can probably take an advantage of the peloton not pushing too hard, even if they're trying to control, so they don't split it up. Paulus is a really good time trialist. He's really savvy from a breakaway. I can see him winning this stage. Stage 12, Osh to the Otakam, 180k. The first 120 of that are flat. And then we have the Col du Soulard, 11.8k at 7.6%. The Col de Bordray, which is kind of just, it's about a 3k climb, but it's in the descent of the Soulard. And then Hautacam to the finish, 13.5k, 7.9%. I think Tadej Pogacar proves he is the best climber in the race at this point, and wins this one quite nicely. Maybe not massive gaps. I don't expect it to be massive gaps actually on this stage, but I'm going with Tadej to win it anyway. Stage 13 is a mountain time trial. I love that they've brought back a mountain time trial. It's a mountain time trial at the Périgord. It's 10.9k in length, around 2.5k flat. The Périgord is 8.1 kilometers at 7.6%, and I have a controversial take on this one. I think Jonas Vingegaard very narrowly beats Tadej Pogacar on Périgord. I think this is going to be a big show by Jonas to prove that he's still in contention. He'll have lost a bit of time the day before, but this will prove that he's in contention and better than last year. And unfortunately, in my opinion, the next day, stage 14, Porte Luchon Super Bagnères, 183 kilometers, the first 70 flat, and then 4 wonderful climbs: the Tourmalet, 18.9k at 7.4%, Col d'Espagne, 5k, 7.4%, then the Périssurde, 7.1 at 8.1%, and Super Bagnères, which is a 12.6k climb at 7.5%. I think, again, UAE will control this. I think the break won't have managed to get far enough up. I think the breakaway won't have got far enough up the road. I think UAE will be able to control, because I don't think the break's going until Tourmalet. I'm going to put that out there. I don't think break's going until Tourmalet on this stage. And I don't think that they're going to sit up in the bunch, because I think Tadej will want to try and assassinate everyone. So my prediction for this stage is Tadej Pogacar taking a little bit more time than he did on the Hautacam stage, just to prove that he's not being rivaled. I think he'll want to prove to I think he'll want to break Jonas mentally on this stage, which I feel like Jonas is a really difficult man to break. I think he's really strong mentally in this sort of situation. And if that sort of thing happens, like, not breaking Jonas mentally, I think if they're kind of playing games to try and break each other mentally, which they'll never do, like, in the media. They're really respectful of each other. It's really nice to see. But on the bike itself, yeah, it'll be interesting, and I think it'll make the race a lot more exciting if that's the case. Stage 15, proper transition stage. We don't have a lot of them in this race, but this is one of them. Muret to Carcassonne, 170k roughly. 70k until the first climb. I think the break formation will be going on that long, at least. First climb's 1.7k at 6.2%, but soon followed by a 6.3 kilometer climb at 5.7%. Break should be gone by there. I imagine it's huge. I imagine it's really strong. And I think kind of a big important factor in this stage is the Pass du Centre, which is 3 kilometers, 9.2%, but it's 55 kilometers away from the end of this stage, and it drags for another 12k afterwards. There's a really long descent, and the final 8 kilometers of the stage are flat. I think it'll be a reduced break. I think it'll be kind of a fuga della fuga. And my prediction for this stage is Wout van Aert. I believe he'll be given his opportunity. I almost went for Magnus Cort on this profile, this is a very Magnus Cort kind of profile, but I think Wout will be given opportunity to get in this break, and I don't think he's going the whole Tour de France without getting a stage win, and this is my pick for which one it'll be. Stage 16, Montpellier to Mont Ventoux. It's the only bit of elevation on the entire stage, but it is Mont Ventoux, so that's quite a lot of elevation in not a lot of time. First, 155k flat Ventoux, 15.6k, 8.7%. I think it'll be controlled really easily because it's flat. My prediction: Tadej Pogačar beats Jonas Vingegaard on the mountain he was dropped on a few years ago. Poetic, some would say. I expect Tadej to want to win on the climbs where he has lost before, is my opinion. Stage 17, Bolin to Valence, 160k, complete sprint stage. The final pure sprint stage of this race. 2 Cat 4s, 1 at 45k to go. The running isn't technical. The closest final turn to the end, I believe, of the race, 650 metres to go. And for that, I have gone for Jonathan Milan to win this one. I don't expect the sprinters to give this stage up to a break. I think it's too important, especially for the points classification. I think it's too important for the race. Stage 18, Vif to Courchevel Col de la Loze, 171 kilometres. What a climb the Col de la Loze is. It's only, as far as I'm aware, been in the race recently, but it's already so rich in history, despite only have been raced a few times, I believe. Wonderful. Really early sprint again. Then the Col du Glandon, which is one of the fake newsest climbs ever in the world. 21.7k at 5.1%. There's so much flat and descending within that, though. That's followed by the Madeleine, 19.3k, 7.8%. And the final is on the Col de la Loze, 26.5 kilometres, 6.4%. Ridiculous, that is. And my opinion on this, I was going to go for a breakaway at first, and then I thought about it. I thought, well, you can start that climb 10 minutes ahead of Tadej Pogačar and you're still going to lose. So I've gone for Pogačar to win on Col de la Loze. Stage 19 now, Albertville to Le Plagne, 130k. We love a shorter mountain stage. Tend to be very exciting. Maybe even shorter than this. But they've gone back to big mountain stages, which are also, in the current era of racing, very fun. Again, another early sprint. I think early sprints really helps the sprinters in the points classification here. But I think it also makes it just kind of infinitely more interesting because of that. It starts with the Côte d'Eugene. That's my guess of how that's pronounced. 11.3k at 5.2%. And then the Col de Cécy, 13.8k, 6.4%. And then a massive descent. The Col du Prix, 12.6k at 7.8%. And the Cormet de Roseland, 5.8k, 6.5%. Then a huge descent. And then a pretty long false flat valley into the bottom of Le Plagne. 19.3 kilometres, 7.2%. I think the breakaway will win this stage. I think the peloton will take it easy over the first few climbs, and the break will get a big lead. My prediction is Lenny Martinez from this breakaway, after having great prep into this race. He's already won multiple stages on the World Tour this season. I think Lenny Martinez wins on Le Plagne. First Grand Tour stage. I'm ready for it. And that'd go a long way towards the King of the Mountains, which I think he's probably one of the major contenders for in this race also. Stage 20, Nanterre to Pont-Allier, 185 kilometres. I find this interesting. I do find this really interesting. So, they've actually put one of the kind of classic Tour de France transition stages on the penultimate stage. And at first when I saw that, I thought, oh god, this is terrible. Because then we don't really have any intrigue going into stage 20. But a transition stage can throw up so many surprises. And given the change of stage 21 this year as well, that it just adds a little extra facet into the intrigue if it's close. At this point, granted, I don't expect it to be close at this point. I expect Pogačar to have kind of walked away with it by this point. But nevertheless, I actually really like this idea. This stage, I think, will be defined by a Category 2 climb. It's called the Côte de Tessie. It's 3.5k at 9%. It's 60k from the line. And I have what I'm going to describe as my stupidest prediction for the race, but one that is still not impossible to happen. I'm going for a third breakaway stage win for EF Education. Harry Sweeney. I talked about him earlier. Harry Sweeney goes so under the radar. He's a wonderful time trialist. He's a wonderful breakaway rider. He's so underrated. I think he goes with 60k to go, and he takes the stage win on this stage. That leads me nicely into stage 21, Mont-la-Ville to the Paris Champs-Élysées. The first 60k before going through the line should be processional as always. The King of the Mountains classification will probably be over, but there are 5 points available on this course. If not, so after them first 60k, 3 times around the normal Champs-Élysées circuit, and then 3 times around the Montmartre Champs-Élysées circuit. So, basically, normally, they go up and down the Champs-Élysées. This year, in the last 3 circuits, they'll go through the finish line, around the bottom end, all the way up, under the tunnel like they normally do, and then jut off for a few K to Montmartre, as was in the Olympics road race course that Remco Evenepoel won. And the last Montmartre climb is between 7 and 8k from the finish, roughly, I believe. And they come back down and finish on the Champs-Élysées as they normally would. Literally just an out and back onto the normal course. And it should be really exciting. However, my opinion, I think it still ends in a sprint. I think some of the sprinters will be a little bit ruined from it. I think Tim Merlier has very little chance of this stage, because there will be attacks, because, these bike riders these days quite like to have a lot of fun. So there will be attacks. Tadej's probably attacking on the third less. Montmartre's trying to win from there. Something mental. Doesn't matter. I think it's going to be a sprint. I think Jasper Philipsen will still have Mathieu van der Poel. I mean, Van der Poel will definitely be there. But I think Philipsen gets over. Van der Poel will be the best lead out remaining, will be my guess. And I think Jasper Philipsen wins on the Champs-Élysées because of that. Finally, I'd like to get into my predictions for the overall classifications of the race. Quick side note, I think Visma win the teams class. I think they have a slightly better top end than UAE, and will certainly be better on the first week stages than UAE in total. young riders classification I'll get to when I do the main GC. The King of the Mountain classification. Intriguingly, I've not gone for a name that I've mentioned on any of the individual stages. I'm going for Felix Gall from Decathlon. I think Felix Gall, my opinion of Felix Gall in this race, he's going to be infinitely second place. I think he's going to get a lot of points on climbs throughout stages, and I think he's going to keep being in the break, getting caught by Tadej, getting passed by 1 or 2 or 3 people, and still getting a good amount of points, but winning a lot of the climbs in the mountain stages before the final climb. And I've put Tadej to win up a good few mountains here, so it's probably a bad choice. But Felix Gall is my pick. He won on lows last time out as well, so that he's a brilliant climber. He's come here to target stages. I think secretly he's probably targeting the King of the Mountains as well. So I'm going Felix Gall. Points classification. Now, if you thought my KOM classification was unjustified, oh boy, here we go. Tadej Pogačar is going to win the points classification of the 2025 Tour de France. This is because I've done some number crunching. That's not quite true. I've pretended to do some number crunching. I think the sprinters are going to cannibalise each other's points. From my predictions, I worked out I have picked Milan, Merlier and Philipsen twice each to win stages in this race. So, if that goes as I think it will, they're going to be taking points off each other all the time, and the other sprinters are going to be getting in the way in the bunch sprints, in the intermediate sprints as well. And there's also so many stages that just have little chance of finishing in a sprint. Sometimes some of the guys could get there, but it depends how it's played. I think Van der Poel, because Philipsen's a bit more versatile, Philipsen might get over some climbs at some point, and Van der Poel might have to work for him, which will damage his aspirations. Wout van Aert, if he was given the freedom to go in the break every day, would have a really good chance, but I think he'll be working for Jonas to option. I think Binny won't be good enough in the pure bunch sprints to win again. And Tadej, I've got him winning so many stages, and I think he'll be really up there in a lot of the hilly stages, and a lot of the hilly stages have 50 points on him this year. I think it sounds stupid. Well, it doesn't sound stupid, but it sounds like there are better options, but I think Tadej wins the points. And I think we could see Tadej Pogačar sprinting on the Champs-Elysees to 5th to win the points classification of this race. Much like, if I remember correctly, Chris Froome did in the final stage of the 2017 Vuelta a España. I think he sprinted to 11th to win the points classification. I could have made that up entirely, but I think that's correct. And then finally, I'll give a rundown. I've got a top 10 GC. So, I'll start with 10th place. My 10th place pick for this GC, after winning on Le Plan, backdoor Lenny Martinez, top 10 in GC, first time of his career. Let's go. I'm on the Lenny hype train. In reality, it's probably more likely to be Buitrago who gets the top 10 of the Bahrain guys, but forget it, don't matter. Backdoor Lenny, 10th place, let's go. 9th place, Enric Mas. He could get higher than that. I think a lot of these depends on team tactics in terms of the more solo leaders of teams. But Mas, he's always a consistent top 10. He's usually a bit higher than that, to be fair. But I think the field is so strong here that he's going to struggle, especially in week 1. The time trial is probably going to ruin him. I think it'll be difficult for him to make any time back. So, 9th. 8th, Jorgensen. Not to spoil or anything, Jorgensen's my second best Visma rider in my opinion. I think that Simon Yates will be in a proper domestique role for most of this race. I think Jorgensen is a bit better to play out as a co-leader because Yates is so consistent through like hilly stages. I think Jorgensen, because of his like power on the flat, I guess, he probably plays out as a dual leader a little bit better. And I think he gets top 10 in this Grand Tour because of that. 7th place, Carlos Rodriguez. I have no reason to put him this high. I just feel like Ineos are gonna try something and have it pay off and get him into 7th. And 7th sounds low, but in this field, I think that's the best he can hope for. And I think it'll be rewarded for more aggressive racing than the likes of Movistar. 6th place. This is my controversy. I'm going to do 6th and 5th at the same time. 6th place, I have Primoz Roglic. 5th place, I have Florian Lipovic. The way I see this going, both of them, and this is controversial in itself, I think they'll both survive week 1 pretty well. I think Roglic is going to be pretty good week 1. Everyone's terrified for him. I think he'll get through it just fine. Lipovic, I think, is really good on that sort of stage as well. But I think what'll happen is Rog will be slightly ahead. They'll work for Rog more when the other guys attack. Lippo will do some work for Roglic on a mountain and lose a minute from him. And then in the back part of the race, on Lowe's and Le Plagne, Lippo will be flying and Roglic will be dropping, and they'll go, okay, Florian, go and try and get a podium. And he'll end up 5th, 1 place ahead of Roglic. And maybe, if it worked the other way around, Lipovic would have a chance at the podium. Or at least 4th. And that 4th in question, I have João Almeida. The second man for UAE, Tadej Pogacar's right-hand man in this race. The only reason why I actually think he might be a decent way off the podium because of week 1. I think week 1 he will struggle. But Almeida's such a consistent climber, and even in the aid of Tadej Pogacar, even while setting Tadej up to make race-winning moves, Almeida's so good at holding on. He's just so good at holding people in sight, ploughing back to them. He's extraordinarily good when he's been dropped already. And sometimes he comes back and wins from that position. I think it's more unlikely in this race due to, his teammate being the favourite. But I think Almeida should put in a good GC still. And then my top 3, I'm going to do them all at once because, I can't lie, it's a bit boring. I've got the same as last year. Tadej to win, Jonas 2nd, Remco 3rd. Especially after the Dauphiné, I don't expect it to go any differently. I expect Remco to be better than at the Dauphiné. I expect it to be closer than it was last year as well. But Remco's had some issues leading up to the Tour. But I think he'll be really good still. The time trial will gain him a decent amount of time, I should imagine. And I believe Tadej will be comfortably better than Jonas, but I think Jonas will be a lot closer than he was last year. So, overall, yeah, I think that's about everything. I think that's all I've got to say. So, I'd love to hear any thoughts. Any thoughts about this? Any thoughts about your predictions? Your analysis of the race? Anything you'd like to see me talk about? See me improve on? I'm open to all critiques, all questions, anything you'd like. Any interaction. Interactions are nice. But yeah, I appreciate you listening to this preview. And I'd appreciate your opinions and your thoughts. But yeah, appreciate you listening to the Stokes Cycling Show. Goodbye.